Tonight, we're going to start with a cocktail, non-alcoholic, of course, and we're going to try to get over this little coffee. Come on.
Plus, hopefully he's got a lot of happy tossed in because I am PO to get Dave, folks, and I'll be on my soapbox quite a bit in this live. But before we get into that, we're looking for our troll hunters, and
we are having some cranberry seasonal drink tonight.
And Jack is being the mixologist.
A cranberry juice cocktail.
He's a mad scientist, y'all.
Cranberry juice cocktail. Okay. Plus cranberries.
I don't know about you guys, but to me, nothing spells out holiday season better than cranberries.
Holiday winter spiced cranberry Sprite. Oh, yeah. Okay. We're going to add this, and hopefully it won't bubble everywhere like it's going to do. Okay. All right. Tell us about our stories.
You know, some mint or winterberry would go.
Oh, I know.
This kind of stuff too, but
mint.
But we'll deal with the Tabasco instead, and have it be more like a spicy season. Oh, let's get spicy up in here.
We've got mandarin oranges.
Mandalorian oranges.
Excuse me, that Tabasco?
I like calling them Mandalorian oranges because he always calls them mandarin.
Mandarin. You guys love these Mandalorian. Oh, yeah.
Mando. Troll hunters, are you here?
Oh, that's going to be a good one. And
I have a feeling because of some of the things I'm going to be discussing tonight that we're going to need our troll hunters in full force, because I have a feeling that some of my opinions are not very popular ones.
Oh, she's got something to say tonight, guys. Like I said in the community.
It's no surprise that I have black cats, huh, guys?
Oh, yeah. Only one person in here. Hi, Rainbow. Here, have a little drinky as we wait for someone to show up.
Let's give this a shot.
Go ahead and smash that like button. What are the... Well...
Whoa!
Tabasco.
Ooh.
Old school Tabasco.
Wow.
It was good, huh?
Yes, good, and also, wow.
Cranberry juice cocktail. Plus, whole cranberries. From a can. Yes, from a can. From a can. Cranberries and oranges.
Mandarin orange.
How did it turn out?
Spicy, but good. And also you put, what is it, holiday Sprite in there.
And they now have the holiday winter spiced Sprite. Is now available at your local grocery stores.
Our first winter Sprite of the season.
So we looked into what do you want?
Cranberry juice.
Cranberry. Okay, you can pour your own.
You sort of handed him everything except
you can make your own drink off screen over there.
Jay, our sunny boy, is just off the screen.
All right, we got 6 people. Let's go ahead.
And he was wanting a drink too, and his dad just kept handing him
Argentina, welcome to our show.
Other than what he wanted.
We're going to talk about some stuff that's been happening here in the United States. This is a true crime channel, and I've recently started making drinks.
And hello, Argentina. And the first one, okay.
How is it?
It's pretty good.
Does it need more Tabasco?
No, it's got plenty of Tabasco.
A little bit of Tabasco goes a long way.
Yeah, it's got quite a kick. Okay, so the first thing I was going to talk about just is Ellen Greenberg. They came back with this latest medical examiner's report, which, you know, makes me just say, how, what? makes zero sense to me. I'm losing faith in the justice system. I'm losing faith in authorities, etc. It has gone back again, and this time it is saying that she did it to herself. They're saying that Ellen Greenberg died of 20 self-inflicted stab wounds and 11 major bruises, and that, like, a bunch of these stab wounds were to the back of her neck, but they said there's hesitation marks. Yeah, back here. And she had a big one on the back of her head.
In the back of her neck. Right here.
Mm-hmm. And they're saying she did it to herself. And this latest medical examiner, I guess, is going on files only and never actually saw Ellen. But the original medical examiner went back and forth saying that they thought that this was done by someone, and then they ruled that it was done by Ellen herself, and then they went back to saying again that they thought that probably somebody else did this to her. And one of the things that was noticeable in the original medical examiner's report was that at least one of the wounds to the back of the neck area had severed the spinal cord. But now this current medical examiner is saying that they think that the original medical examiner accidentally severed the spinal cord during the autopsy, which is like, what? Because what kind of incompetency is it when the medical examiner is making that sort of mistake where they are severing a spinal cord, and then
in postmortem they should be able to tell.
And that's
still on our TV shows.
And then I guess they were saying that some of these wounds that Ellen had were done post-mortem, and it's like, well, how do you take your own life and continue stabbing yourself after you're deceased? So it makes zero sense, and of course no justice in that case, because no matter whether it is self-inflicted or not, there's going to be no way of knowing. But it sure doesn't sound like self-inflicted to me. Went out with that amount of wounds and to the back, and it's like, okay. And so I'd love to know what you guys think on this. I feel like there's not going to be any justice in that case. I feel like there's no way of knowing, and there's no way to trust the authorities. And I believe it took place in Pennsylvania, and it's like, what, all these years later, and all this back and forth, and they still cannot come up with a report that is believable. I mean, I don't know what I expected from this one, but I sure didn't expect what happened. I did not expect it to come back this way, and I am highly disappointed that it just seemed to not accomplish anything, and just, if anything, left more questions in mind than answers. And should I go straight into what's got me extremely out of it?
How are you feeling tonight? I mean, last night you went a little bit off on Indigenous Peoples Day. Tonight,
I was ecstatic for Indigenous Peoples Day because finally there was some, even in a very small way, it seemed that there was recognition of the original inhabitants of this country, and that we were not celebrating Columbus, who, by the way, never set foot in the land that is now this country, and was not a great person, and did go and begin atrocities against the people of the land that he supposedly discovered. He didn't discover anything. He was freaking lost. And then he came across these people, thought
that was our kitten.
Was that one of the kittens, or was that
Yes, that was the kitten.
Which one?
The black one.
I'll have two black kittens. One has a red collar and one has a pink collar. And then
Excuse me.
and then the older one doesn't have a collar on right now because she went and pulled it off
Get
again.
out of here. This one.
She
get
thinks she's a
out of
Houdini.
here. Go over there and be bothered.
That also is a very old one, and that one doesn't have a collar on at all either. She also took her collar off. What the heck, you guys? Why is it that? Yeah, I mean, you can get a cheap little collar, and the cat will wear it forever and ever. Then you spend bank on a really fancy, nice collar that you think, oh, this is so pretty and looks perfect on you, and then they go and hide it somewhere. It's like, what the heck? Why'd you take off? I guess it's the same thing where you buy them all the cat toys and then they play in the box instead.
So tell us about something that you found disgusting Columbus did to the indigenous people once
he enslaved the indigenous people. He cut off their hands because that's easily transportable. So he cut off hands to bring back to sell as trophies. And he kidnapped prepubescent children to be pillow mates, companions for himself and his crew members.
Dude,
so he was engaging in human trafficking of minors.
He was the first trafficker versus the other girl, Pocahontas.
Pocahontas was also trafficked, and I hate that Disney movie that tries to make it seem like it was some sort of love story or something. The whole thing is not a love story. And by the way, Pocahontas wasn't even her real name, but that's neither here nor there. But she did marry Kocoum, and they had a child, and then she was kidnapped by the missionaries, given the name of Rebecca. And eventually she married a man named John, and they had a child who then inherited a plantation and stuff. But, she, of course, died of white man diseases is the best way to put it. She was...
20.
Yeah, before the age of 20. So she was trafficked. It's horrific. And then it's made into this cootsy-wootsy Disney thing. And then there's all these, Native American princess costumes, and it's like,
so yes,
people not costumes.
African princess costume.
So when you're out there buying costumes this year, guys.
Yeah. So anyway, there's that.
We talk about true crime. We talk about trafficking of humans on this channel, amongst other things.
And we also talk about current events. And a current event that has really, really pissed me off is that today is October 14th, and it has been declared the Charlie Kirk Day of Remembrance, which makes me want to barf. And he was given the Congressional Medal of Honor, and I feel that he did not deserve that. I can think of dozens of people more deserving than him, and especially military personnel and stuff. And what the heck is it that he gets a Congressional Medal of Honor while the code talkers are pulled off of the National History freaking website and stuff like that, and
comments in here,
and Ira Hayes is being relegated to the back closets in the museum, and all this other stuff because they're going, oh, DEI didn't even exist when these heroes laid down their lives for this country or risked it all for this country, and they weren't even recognized as U.S. citizens. And then Charlie Kirk goes and does a bunch of speeches and gets shot in the neck by some crazed guy, and he gets the Congressional Medal of Honor. He gets a day of remembrance, and it just makes me want to puke. And so, by the way, October 14th, 1947, Chuck Yeager broke the sound barrier. So, Chuck Yeager broke the sound barrier in 1947. So how about it's Chuck Yeager Day, not Charlie Kirk Day? Anyhow.
Tell us how you really feel.
That's how I really feel. Calmed down version of how I really feel. You should have seen me earlier. I was freaking furious because of knowing about all these other people that were more deserving of this award, thinking of all these different things that actually had been done to the betterment of mankind that don't get recognized, and trying to figure out just what it is that Charlie Kirk has done. Some people say that he's brought a bunch of people to Christianity, but from what I study about Christianity, a lot of what he preached was the opposite of Christianity. Christianity is supposed to be about love and love one another and all that kind of thing. And he was basically preaching hate, from what I can tell, and it was just not okay. And even just a little interview that I saw of his best friend, or one of his best friends, discussing the Congressional Medal of Honor being given to him posthumously, and this guy said, "Oh, this is a great thing for Charlie's son." And I'm thinking to myself, Charlie also has a daughter. Why is it not a great thing for his daughter as well? Just because I was spoiling for a fight and wanting to nitpick things, it's like it appears that Charlie Kirk also thought less of women than of men, and then he also thought less of non-whites than whites, and and then everybody's it's all taken out of context. The things that he said that people pick on, it's all taken out of context.
That's their go-to.
Well, okay. Taken out of context.
Everything.
Absolutely, everything was taken out of context.
Everything he ever said.
But he said those things. So even if it was taken out of context, why is he saying it anyway? For instance, the thing about if he saw that he had a black pilot, he'd want to know if they were qualified. And then somebody said, well, if you saw any pilot, you'd want to know if he's qualified. And then he's like, basically, oh no, it's only a problem if they're a minority. And it's like, no.
He'll disguise it. He'll say, oh, it's not racist because I'm saying that they only hire minorities because they have to, and not because that minorities can be skilled workers.
And that's another thing that has just really got my goat, is they're sitting there going, DEI this, DEI that, when I happen to know that a lot of this stuff that started in the 60s to try to make things, or 50s and 60s, civil rights and all that, to try to make things more equitable for people of color, or people who are not white, or whatever you want to say.
Kirk called them.
I'm not even going there. But
He also used the F slur.
But that stuff doesn't even really exist anymore. You can't get a seat in a doctoral program just because you're brown. You have to qualify, and and there is no quota. Oh, we need so many brown people to be in this program. There's no such quota, and you don't get in there just because of your race or something like that. You actually have to get in there on merit. And the same with pilots. You're trying to tell me that major airlines are going to hire somebody that does not know how to fly a plane, is not qualified to fly a plane, just because they need somebody who's not white to fly the plane? I don't think so. Have you ever heard of lawsuits? They're not going to hire somebody that's not qualified to go and fly these planes. So, yeah, Charlie Kirk, I'm so over it about him and everything about him. I mean, I felt bad that somebody was assassinated on, a national podium, basically, that, it was all over everywhere. I felt bad about that. Yeah,
Well,
I'm not for people getting assassinated.
He did
but
say we need to have a few gun deaths each year.
Yeah.
Yes, he did.
And isn't that ironic that he did say that we need to have a few gun deaths each year just to justify the Second Amendment
and other God-given rights.
And all other God-given rights.
Guns.
And, and that's another thing, is it appears that Charlie Kirk was assuming that the only religion is Christianity, when there are many different religions in the world. They all seem to have similar tenets and such. And if you read their books alone and not go with what their various, especially when you go to the more extremes of the different religions, they seem to care about stuff. And then Charlie Kirk seems to think that only white male Christians matter. And
he also said that this is a white country.
Yeah, and he says this is a white country, and he said this country was nothing before the colonizers got here. He says they came here and they colonized this land because there was nothing here.
He said the settlers built upon barren land.
Which is not true. And, is the annihilation, the genocide, the mass genocide of the people that originally inhabited this land, is that justified? I don't think so. And, and then he's against the people who were here originally. He's against the people who were brought here against their wills. And then he's given the Congressional Medal of Honor on top of all that. So
he said the civil rights movement was a mistake.
Oh yeah, and he said the civil rights movement was a mistake. And I happen to have been raised by people who were very active in the civil rights movement. I was brought up on the history and learning about the protests and learning about things like as my husband mentioned, Rosa Parks and things like that. It just sickens me and makes me angry to no end that this is what it's coming to here in this country, that now he's just handed and to me that also diminishes the Congressional Medal of Honor itself, because now all you have to do is be a public speaker that gets assassinated, and that's what merits the Congressional Medal of Honor. What national good did he do? What national, I am mad. Do you have anything to say, son?
People in my family gave their lives fighting war for this country, and they never got any medals for it.
Yeah, and they, all the Gold Star mothers, they're women who, their kids died fighting for this country, and they didn't, they're what the flying poo poo f. That's what I have to say about that, and about making this a special holiday for him. Plus, he hasn't even been deceased that long, and he's got a congressional, he's got a Congressional Medal of Honor. He's got a freaking national holiday that's supposed to be recurring, and they were even talking about making a coin for him. And I hope to hell
that got shut down.
Well, I'm glad it got shut down, and I was going to say I hope to hell it was just one of those not for it wasn't proposed to be for actual currency, but with some kind of commemorative coin or something.
No,
Luckily, it got shut down.
U.S. quarter that was planned.
It was planned to be an actual U.S. quarter. Luckily, it got shut down, and it's like
he believed in free speech.
And
we have free speech.
We believe in
free
speech.
speech.
Hit that comment.
Stuff.
Yeah, he was using his free speech to incite violence because he was working up crowds, making them believe that people of color were taking all their jobs and were getting promoted for no good reason and not of their own merits, and that is very divisive. And I don't think that preaching divisiveness should be rewarded. And so that's my soapbox on that. And I will switch topics now.
Real quick, I'll mention.
Yeah.
He said Western values are superior, yet he claims to be Christian. Is Jesus a Western value? Was he Western or was he from the East?
Middle East?
Where was he from again?
Yeah. Exactly. And and that's why I know that people are gonna get really mad at me.
Oh,
but
people
that's
are gonna
why,
be really mad.
That's why. That's why some people actually, even from my own family, talk about it as if there's two different people, because in a way there is. They talk about Jesus, the guy from the Bible, and they talk about white Jesus, the guy
Bring those
that's
comments in there. Let's go.
fictionalized by the white religion that was used to subjugate people that were not white, and say, okay, you're not a worthy human being. You are less than human because you are not white, and because you are not Christian. You don't matter, and that you're either going to become Christian or you're going to be killed, and that's it. And that's part of the United States history as well. Anyway.
Bring your comments while we're still talking about this, because this is not really a political channel, but...
And while we're just swinging along on those comments, and you guys can discuss that amongst yourself, I'm going to change the subject now to something else that might be a little bit inflammatory, but not all at the same time. And that is Ian Watkins, the PDF file that was killed in prison in the UK.
There's a new word, unalive. It's disalive.
Okay, this disalived in prison in the UK, and he preferred toddlers as his victim of choice, and he was sentenced to, he was the lead singer of a very popular band in his day, and so it kind of gets to me when I realize that after what all he did, whatever he was found guilty of, all these horrific crimes, and he was sentenced to 29 years in prison with 6 on remand, meaning that he was going to serve 29 and then he was going to serve 6, like basically on parole, and for a total of 35. But he was going to spend 29 in the prison. And then I took a look at the guys who did disalive him.
Disallived.
The guys who disallived him are 2 guys that were serving time, obviously, in the same prison. And, of course, they weren't in there for being Boy Scouts or anything. Samuel Dodsworth is 43 years old, and he was serving 24 years for kidnap and rhymes with grape of a woman in Derby. And so his victim is, or his survivor, is not a child, not a toddler, not a baby, but he got 24 years. This other guy did horrific things to children and got 29. That didn't seem fair to me. And then I also went and looked to find out this other guy, the second guy, and it appears that while he had a different name listed originally, they say he goes by Rico now. And I don't know how to pronounce his last name, Gettle or whatever, but Rico wanted to appear in person for their hearing thing. Samuel appeared via television from the prison. Rico didn't appear. He didn't leave his cell because he had wanted to be before the magistrate in person, and that wasn't allowed. And it turned out that apparently members of his family had known about this and known that he would be in court because members of his family were there. And anyway, he was convicted in February of 2021 for a gang-related killing where he and some other guys went after 2 guys that it was mistaken identity. They thought these 2 guys were with a rival gang, and they thought it was a drugs deal or whatever, and it was mistaken identity. It went wrong. A 22-year-old man lost his life, and a 16-year-old boy received stab wounds to the back and managed to survive, but is now haunted with PTSD and everything, and will be forever scarred by this incident. So anyway, Rico was sentenced to 27 years, and then, although he was sentenced to 27 years, it was noted that before his sentencing that Rico had been in care since the age of 13. He had been placed in 14 different care home placements, and so he had a rough upbringing and everything, and still he got 27 years, which is only 2 years less than this guy who has ruined the lives of all these children and infants. I mean, this guy had infant victims and showed zero remorse, continued to attempt to have contact with minors while he was serving time in prison. In 2019, Ian was busted with a cell phone, in which I guess he had put it up the keister and was trying to hide it there. But he had evidence, there was evidence on the phone that he was making contact with underage people and had images of underage people in this phone that he had while he was in prison. And then a couple of years after that, a group of guys who were in the prison with him and were upset about his interactions with minors, his continuing interactions with minors, fans, they kidnapped him and locked themselves away with him for 6 hours, where they beat him, tortured him, and then used a knife on him, but he survived that. And then now he's been disalived. But good riddance to him, I think. But I'm very shocked about how, like I said, the guys that disalived him, they're not Boy Scouts, they're not in there for being good guys, but their crimes were nothing compared to Ian Watkins' crimes, and yet they were doing similar time. It's what the literal, how can you get such a light sentence, compared to their sentences, how do you get such a light sentence for destroying the lives of children? Anyway,
his fans would bring him
children.
The people that would buy his music and attend his concerts were also providing him with these
children.
Yes.
And
their own offsprings they were offering to him.
Yeah, which is,
some of those guys got busted too.
Which, something else that sickens me is how people get this hero worship thing going on, like the hero worship for, and I'm not necessarily saying Charlie Kirk was into kids or anything like that, but I'm just saying that his fans get whipped up into a frenzy over him. Ian Watkins fans get whipped up into a frenzy over him. What are we doing as a society where we go and we just take these people and put them up on such a high pedestal that we allow people like Ian Watkins to get sentenced to just 29 years for the horrific things that he did? There was so much evidence. There was so much that it overwhelmed the system. The cops didn't even have enough equipment at first to even go through it all. And anyhow,
yes, two prisoners eliminated him.
Yeah, and anyway, the two prisoners that disalived Ian Watkins.
Let's don't spell their names wrong when we tell them who they are.
Yeah, they're going to be back in court on February 6th. Wait, no, that's the different date. They're going to be back in court on. They have something coming up. Oh yeah, they have a plea and trial preparation on November 12th, where they're going to show up and see whether or not it's going to go to hearing or whether that's going to go to trial or if they're going to plead to this or what exactly. And then already the calendar's been cleared that if it does go to trial, the trial is set for May 5th, 2026, and is expected to take 2 to 3 weeks. And like I said, these guys' names are Samuel, Samuel Dodsworth, Dodsworth, Worth, Dodsworth, and he is 43, and he's serving 24 years for kidnap and essaying of a woman, an adult woman. And the other guy is Rico Gedel, Gedel, and he is sentenced for the stabbing death of a young man and the assault of a 16-year-old man. All of the same crime committed with a group of other youth who all also are doing doing time for those crimes.
She's getting better with her cough. Remember a couple of days back, she was coughing a whole lot more. Bear with her. She'll get better soon.
And now
the rest of the story.
This is what you didn't even know I was going to do tonight.
No, which one?
This is just a little update information to David and Celeste Rivas' case. Wow, Tabasco.
Good.
It sneaks up on you guys. Anyway, as you guys probably know by now,
David and Celeste.
there is a performer known as David who goes by D4VD as David Burke. And he had just started a tour when it was reported that his Tesla had been towed from a street near the house that he had been renting, that had been rented for him by his manager.
And whose house was it before that?
And before it was owned by the people that own it now, it was owned by Halle Berry. But these people that own it and rented it out to David's manager had purchased it from Halle Berry. Anyway, so David was on tour when his Tesla was towed. It had been sitting for several weeks on a public street in his neighborhood. It was covered in dust. It was annoying the neighbors because it's parked in front of their house instead of over by his, and it's dusty, it's dirty, it's
dirty cars in Hollywood.
It's got a large dent, and it's got Texas plates. So, it had several things against it. And also, the area around it. See, I told you that Tabasco will get you.
Oh, that's bright. I'm going to turn the lights down.
And also, there was an odor that people thought, they didn't know if it was coming from the car or if it's coming from the sewer drainage thing that's like near the gutter by the car.
Is that where they found the keys?
They thought it
to
could have
that
been.
car?
Yeah, eventually. And they thought it could have been some kind of some sort of sewer leak or whatever. I mean, it's LA, it's Hollywood Hills. It's sometimes there are funky smells when you're in cities, so nobody really thought that it was a deceased person. The car got towed. The impound yard noticed the smell and finally decided to call police after a couple of days. Police went and investigated the car. When they opened the front trunk of this Tesla, they found the remains of a small human female. There was no identification at that time as to who it was. Eventually, we learned that the remains belonged to Celeste Rivas Hernandez, who was only 14 years old at the time of her demise. When her body was found, though, it was the day after what would have been her 15th birthday. But due to decomposition, we know that she did not make it to her 15th birthday. But anyway, Celeste had been hanging around David, who is 20. So there was something funky going on with this underage girl being with this guy, and there have been videos that have been released now of the two of them doing live streams together, in person together, looking very close together.
She's a giggly little girl
and
in those videos.
And people have come forward also stating that they knew her as his girlfriend, but didn't know she was only 14. They thought she was like 19 or something. Ooh. And that's neither here nor there. The thing is that, this little girl was found deceased in this Star's vehicle. And so September 17th, the home that he had been renting, the home that was close to where the Tesla was found, a search warrant was served on that home. And there had to have been some sort of evidence linking David's car and the deceased person that was in the car, and perhaps the item of interest that was wrapped around the remains in the car. They still haven't released what the item of interest was. But, there's a lot that goes into getting a search warrant. They got a search warrant to search the house. It was served on the house. It appears that there was no one home when the house was searched. The house was searched. There were several items of evidence collected and removed from there, including a laptop, because reporters and stuff were watching what was being taken out of the house, so they have some idea of what's come out. The police haven't really explained too much on that. The police did make a statement that the search took place over the duration of the search warrant, and that they were also looking for blood and DNA evidence in the home. And what we know now, what came out now, is that the owner of that home has now hired a private investigator to do their own investigation, going over surveillance video in the area, the surveillance video that belongs to the home, etc. Because the homeowner, for their own peace of mind, wants to know what the heck happened in their home. That's their house. They want to know what happened.
But they have to disclose if there was an incident.
And I don't know if they have to disclose in the state of California. I know in the state of Colorado they don't have to disclose, and so the house where Gannon was killed was sold without the new owners having to be told. I don't know if they found out, but they didn't have to be told what happened in that home. Anyhow. Homeowner has hired this private investigation firm to investigate all of that. They want to know whether Celeste stayed in that home, when Celeste stayed in that home. They want to know because they feel that law enforcement is not going to be coming forward to them to let them know what happened in their home. And they said that while law enforcement hasn't told them that they haven't been told that Celeste was killed in the home, they also haven't been told that she was not killed in the home. And they said that there was no permanent damage done to their home by the investigation by the police, but they just kind of want to know what's going on in their home. And they do state that they are not going to have the private investigator release any of the findings until after the police investigation is done in this case. And of course, they're going to share with the police what their private investigator turns up. But they don't want to mess up the actual criminal case. They just really want to know for their own peace of mind what happened at their house. And they also have come forward saying that they've been told by the neighbors and by the weekly maintenance workers that they employ, because they're the landlords of this house.
Yeah.
They have workers that work for them that were there at the property every week, and they have been told that the last month or so things were extremely quiet at the house, and the weekly maintenance workers, which include gardeners, pool cleaners, pest control, they all notice nothing out of the ordinary at the home or in the home or anything.
So this is new information.
That is new information.
Good job.
And then not so new information, but also tying into this is that September 17th is when the search warrant was served on that home that David was renting. September 18th is the day that one of the two homes David owns he owns them and they are in Texas. And September 18th is the day that one of those homes that David owned in Texas was swatted. His parents live in that home, and that's also the day that he signed over that home to a trust run by his parents. And then he also, on the 22nd of September, signed over the second property to his parents, all while this investigation into Celeste's death is taking place. And so the timing of that's kind of interesting, you might say. But anyway, that's what's going on in that case so far. And of course, there's no new information yet as to Celeste's cause of death or anything like that. That was a deferred thing by the medical examiner. And well, we're running up on the time where we might be expecting results to be coming in. And it's not necessarily time yet for the results, so I'm not overly concerned that nothing's been released at the present time. But that's another case where somebody with money and fame is given access to children. Not okay.
Another one.
Yeah.
He's only took one child.
As far as we know.
And he would have My Little Pony as part of his...
My Little Pony, Pokemon, I forgot the name of the other ones, but, collectible little stuffies that are popular.
He'd wear those on his belt loops during concerts.
Popular amongst the adolescent female set, yeah.
Maybe it's just marketing, maybe, or something darker.
And now...
We had a request.
I will do a...
We have a request. Let's check this out here.
What request?
Jacqueline Torres, Farmington, Connecticut. I believe it's Jacqueline.
Farmington, Connecticut?
Uh-huh. New case. So we'll look into that this evening or tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll discuss what we learn in the next live, which will be tomorrow. And of course, there might be still more to go when we go live with what we do find out. And we'll discuss it, and that will be an ongoing discussion. And now I'll just it's kind of a true crime story. It does have a conclusion, and it does have questions for you guys to give feedback.
I have to come up on the camera so I can see the comments. That's why
But he's trying to sneak around to the side because
you guys don't want to see all of me.
Because he's noticed before. I mean, you should hear him. He sounds like a little adolescent schoolgirl, but oh no, the size of my nose or whatever. Because he's like, my forehead. Oh my gosh. And he's like, I look like that doorbell guy, or open the door.
Open the door, yeah.
Because
remember that YouTuber that would be talking to the ring cam all the time?
Yeah.
She made multiple videos like that. She was funny. Anyways, when I come up here, it gives my wife. It gives her the prominent spot. She is the star of this channel. She has made like 400 videos by herself.
You were there too.
Yeah, well, they didn't know I was there.
But he was.
I was behind every one of those videos.
Anyway, this case involves Daniel Sarafini, who was a professional ball player.
Oh, this is a good story.
And It takes us back to Lake Tahoe, which is one of our stomping grounds. And it's Lake Tahoe. June of 2021 is when this particular case began, or the crime portion of this case began. And Gary, I can't remember writing whether it's Spire or Spore. I think it's Spire. Gary Spire and Wendy Wood are a married couple. They're real estate investors. They're quite wealthy. They have 2 daughters, and one of their daughters' name is Erin. And on this particular day in June of 2021, Erin had come over to visit them, bringing her 2 little boys with her. And Gary and Wendy and Erin and the little boys went out on the lake, and they're out on the boat having a day out on the lake. And while they were out on the lake, on Lake Tahoe,
beautiful lake.
cameras show a mysterious figure, with a mask on and everything, walk up the driveway and enter the home while everyone's out.
What year was that?
Yeah, 2021.
Oh, could still be left over in mask from COVID. He was completely covered up in the video. So how much did it still stand out in 2021?
Probably quite a bit, because the cops thought it was quite suspicious when they saw him on. Plus, he went into the house and he stayed in the house for several hours, and then he left the house after the gunshots.
Well, yeah, he would. I think so.
So anyway, they're out on the lake together with their daughter Erin, and it's not unusual that daughter Erin and the baby boys are over there without Erin's husband, Daniel Sarafini. Daniel and the parents have never really got on together very well, and Daniel was also working at a gold mine and lived in a trailer at the gold mine whenever he wasn't
Out of Elko.
Yeah, whenever he wasn't out of near Elko. I forgot the name of the place, but it's near Elko.
Because
anyway,
we know where the gold mines are in Elko.
Yeah. Anyway, so
I'm gonna cough.
Erin
Jesus.
and the boys were living at the family home that they shared with Daniel, and Erin ran an equestrian center out of the home. And like I said, wealthy family, okay? And Erin has been brought up on horses, and she's been a horse trainer since she was a young teenager. And so that day, Wendy, Erin's mom, before Erin and the boys went back to Reno where they lived, Wendy handed her a $90,000 check so that she could do the addition of an indoor riding ring at her equestrian center. And, it was not surprising that, they were giving her money like $90,000. They had often gifted Erin and her sister large amounts of money. Erin used to complain to people sometimes that she felt like there was always strings attached to the monetary gifts from her parents. But like they paid for IVF treatments for her to have the children that she had with Daniel. And they paid, like $1.5 million to Erin and Daniel so they could buy the home that they purchased in Reno and stuff like that.
How much was the Reno house?
$1.5 million. And and so they often gifted these guys money and bailed them out of financial difficulties, because Daniel is not good with money, not good with business. He actually had a failed bar. At one point, he was even on a TV show called Bar Rescue, where he totally lost it, had temper tantrums on the show and everything, and apparently that temper tantrum stuff wasn't just for show, and it wasn't just on the TV show. This guy was a spastic. And anyway, so anyway, Aaron and the kids leave after having had dinner with Gary and Wendy. And then after dinner, Gary and Wendy clean up and they go sit on their living room couch and they're starting to watch TV. And that's when the masked guy jumps out and uses the pew-pew to disalive Gary with a couple shots to the back of the head. And he also got Wendy a couple times in the head, but Wendy managed to stumble away and lock herself into a bathroom where she actually had a telephone and was able to call 911. And while she was incoherent on the phone due to the head injuries, the 911 operator was able to trace the call to the residence, and they arrived there and were able to rescue Wendy, airlifted her out of there. Gary unfortunately didn't make it, and the case kind of went cold. Wendy was in intensive care for over a month, and then as the case was starting to go cold, Wendy's daughter, the other daughter, went and offered $150,000 cash reward for people to help figure out who this masked guy was. That because they had the camera footage and everything. The police had it. It was released, and she's offering $150,000. Notably, Daniel and Aaron did not attend that press conference, where the one daughter is offering a monetary reward to help solve this crime against her parents, and the other daughter and her husband don't even bother to show up to show any family unity at all. And so then we go dip into a little bit of the family history, and we find out that in 2006, when David was 31, and he was a professional ball player at that time, he was married. Yeah, he was married, and he had a couple of kids, and his wife at that time, 2006, hired Aaron, who was then 19 years old, to train the family's horses. And so, that's when she met Daniel, but in 2006. But at that time, it was just strictly business. And then in 2007, Daniel's career took a hit. He was busted using performance-enhancing substances, and so he got a 50-game suspension. So then he went to Japan to play ball there for a few more years, and then it rolled around to 2010, and in 2010, Daniel was going through a divorce, and so he was now 35 years old, and Aaron was now 22 or 23, and she was actually living in San Jose, where she was attending college. She was planning to become a dental hygienist. At least that was her plans. Her parents thought that she was going there for dentistry. But anyway, her parents were paying for her to go to college in San Jose. And then Daniel, through mutual friends, got the word out to Aaron that he really wanted to take her on a date. So Aaron flew to Reno. He flew her to Reno from San Jose to go on a date with him. And they hit it off.
It's like 160 miles.
Yeah, and they hit it off, and she dropped out of school, which ticked her parents off because her
mom and dad's gonna be mad
because her parents had already paid her tuition and were paying for her to live there and everything, and then she just chucked the whole thing to go hang out with Daniel in Reno. And her parents already were concerned by the age difference and other things about Daniel. They weren't crazy about Daniel. But then a year later, Aaron married Daniel on a beach in Hawaii. They had a barefoot wedding. And the tension between Daniel and the parents only grew, and he also was pointing out to Aaron that he felt like her parents were controlling her through their purse strings and stuff like that. And then, and her parents, obviously, especially Wendy, felt that Aaron was trying to take that felt that Daniel was trying to take advantage of Aaron, and so she decided she wanted Daniel to sign a post-nuptial that stated that if he and Aaron split up for any reason, that he did not have a right to any of the millions of dollars that Aaron was going to inherit from her parents, because they had a trust set up for her and a trust set up for her sister, and he agreed to sign it, and he signed it, but he made no bones about the fact that he did not like this, and he actually mouthed off to multiple people that, oh, I ought to just have her parents bumped off for $20 million. I'll pay $20 million and get rid of her parents and blah, blah, blah. And he talked that shit up a lot. And he vented multiple times about that over the years. There was dust-ups between Aaron and Daniel and Aaron's parents, Gary and Wendy, multiple times over, like I said, these gifts of millions of dollars and things like that, where then Aaron would be like, or Daniel would be like, oh, well, I ought to just give this money back and kick Gary's ass and stuff like that. But then, of course, he never gave the money back or anything like that. He was only too happy to take the money. So anyway, 2 years after being injured, so it's 2023, Wendy couldn't handle the total difficult recovery that she was having. She was having to relearn how to read, how to talk, how to move, how to function, and having to do all of this.
That's a massive headshot to do that.
Yeah, and having to do all of this without her husband. So Wendy finally disalived herself, and in the aftermath of that, and because of everything else that seemed to be going on, the sister got upset and filed a wrongful death suit against Aaron and Daniel. But at that point, there still wasn't any criminal suit. But then the poop hit the fan. More evidence came forward because, like, back in 2017, Aaron and Daniel befriended a woman named Samantha Scott. And Samantha Scott was a nanny and a babysitter and stuff like that. And she became really close with Aaron and, babysat for Aaron and Daniel all the time, starting in 2017. And then it turned out that the day before the shooting that took place at Gary and Wendy's house, the day that there was the mysterious person that was in the house, well, that day, Daniel's phone had not been on at all. And that was very unusual because Daniel had a history of, like doing hundreds of texts a day and stuff. And usually he was able to be found through his GPS or whatever, but he wasn't located. That's not the same for Samantha Scott. The day before the mysterious guy at the house, Samantha Scott was seen in Elko, Nevada, renting a hotel room.
And where in Elko?
In Elko. And she's renting a hotel room where at the Red Lion.
Oh yeah.
And it was a room with a hot tub.
Wow.
And guess what? She ordered a second room key for a second guest, whose name was Daniel. Daniel, I forgot his name. I'm going to have to look at it, but it was him, okay, guys?
Daniel, the ball player.
Daniel Sarafini was the second guest. They spent the night together at the Red Lion in Elko, Nevada. And
we just came through the Elko a while back.
And Samantha is, then when she later got approached by police and agreed to testify and all that, she was claiming that they were just good friends, though, and they were hanging out together, having drinks and all that, because he wanted a ride the next day. And but anyway, so she said that then the next day, and of course everything checked with her phone because she never turned hers off, and so all the pings and everything lined right up, that the next day, after spending the night with Daniel at that room at the Red Lion, she then drove him to Tahoe.
Oh, that's a long drive.
She drove him
8 hours.
She drove him to Tahoe, to Gary and Wendy's house, and then because of where her pings were, she also and from neighbors.
Goodness.
And from neighbors' cams.
That's like close to 500 miles.
The guy that exited her vehicle, which of course was Daniel, because she did admit that was Daniel, that was her passenger. Daniel got out of her car and walked up the driveway with the mask on and everything, going into his in-laws' house. And she waited for him.
She didn't think that was sus.
She said she thought that he was going to go pick up some cocaine.
Can you say that on YouTube?
Yeah, I can say that on YouTube because that was her story.
Okay.
That's what she was sticking to. She thought he was going to go pick up some cocaine. So she said
Coca-Cola.
Yeah, some Coca-Cola, okay? She thought he was going to go get some Coca-Cola, and it might take a while. And she said she was unaware that this was Aaron's parents' house. She just figured that he was going to pick up some Coca-Cola. So she parked her car, and she moved it several times, and she went to go pee and come back and stuff like that, sticking around the neighborhood, waiting for him to finish his Coca-Cola run.
Wow.
And then eventually, after 5 hours, he returned from his Coca-Cola run, and then she drove him back to Elko.
Wow.
And she said that at that point they were still just friends, and that she didn't start an affair with him until 6 months after the shooting. And at that time, after they started
12-hour road trip,
after they started their affair, and she was in love with him, and then he told her that that's what he did on the Coca-Cola run, was that he had actually done that horrible stuff to Aaron's parents. And then she's all like, oh, but I love you anyway, though, so I'm not going to tell anybody. And until the cops came knocking on her door. And then she decided to testify against him in exchange for a charge of accessory after the fact, because she's like, I didn't know what he was going to do beforehand, and I didn't know what he did afterwards, and it wasn't until way after that, it wasn't until 6 months after that I knew what he did, and then I kept quiet about it because, by that time I was in love with him and I wasn't going to tattle on him. So anyway, she got convicted for accessory after the fact. Meanwhile...
Is that the story where they were throwing guns from the car?
No.
No?
Oh yeah, he threw it away, but it was a gun. It was pew pews that he had made in the 3D plastic thing. He made it himself, and then he was taking it apart, and also taking apart the clothing that he'd been wearing in the video and everything. And they threw that away, and that stuff's never been found.
Out the window.
Yeah, and that stuff's never been found.
Interstate 80.
So it's somewhere on I-80 between Tahoe and Elko. They ditched that stuff. But anyway, that stuff was never found. Anyway, she testified against him. Meanwhile, believe it or not, even in light of finding out that her husband was having an affair with her best friend, and that her best friend's testifying that her husband is the one who did this horrible stuff to her parents, Aaron testified on his behalf during the whole trial, and kept saying, no,
He didn't do that. It couldn't have been him. That wasn't him. You know, I've been married to him all this time. I know that that guy in the video is not him, even though, you know, Samantha's saying, that is him. I dropped him off. That's what he was wearing when I dropped him off. That's what he was wearing when I picked him up. But anyway, so the jury didn't believe Aaron, and in July of 2025, Daniel was found guilty of disaliving Gary, attempting to disalive Wendy, and burglary. And yeah, he's locked up, and he's not going to be able to be using any of that money that he was hoping to get from the parents not being alive and stuff. But what do you guys think? And what do you think about Aaron? Do you think that everybody that should have gotten busted in this case got busted? Or do you think that maybe Aaron had more to answer for than just being a stupid wife that believed her husband instead of her sister and her best friend, who all said that her husband was no good? And also, to this day, Aaron and Aaron's sister are estranged because Aaron's sister has known all along that Daniel had to have done this, and Aaron has stood up for the guy. What do you guys think of all this?
Between sisters.
A huge wedge between the sisters. And
drop it in the comments. We're looking for 10,000 subs. You guys could sub. You can change your mind later.
And I'm curious to see just how her friendship with Samantha's gonna go now.
I wonder.
Since Samantha is saying that Daniel's a bad guy also, and if she's willing to, I mean, of course she's not to be friends with Samantha anymore, right?
I don't think so.
And I wonder if she's going to be visiting Daniel, since she was.
I wonder if he'll get any visitors. If he'll get a bunch of new girls.
Yeah, who knows? Anyway, that's all. Some crazy stuff. And yeah, I know my live tonight was like all over the place.
Eat a raw onion. Drop some super chats up in there. You want to see somebody eat an onion?
That might help.
That might help your little cough you've got going. Remember, super chats can get your stories told a lot quicker on this channel.
Whew. Whew. Tabasco, guys.
Tabasco? Dude, I only put a little bit of Tabasco in your little drink tonight.
Oh no. And now I did the opposite. I think the Tabasco just closed up my nostrils.
And in the bottom, we've got mandarin oranges and cranberry. And yum, guys. Do you want to eat on camera?
Okay.
No.
Is there Tabasco on it?
Well, it's a mandarin orange. Believe it or not.
Yeah.
People don't like to watch you eat on camera.
They get mean. They get really mean.
Still.
Good.
Onions are healthy for you. Apparently.
It's supposed to be like blood cleaners too. Blood thinner, onions and garlic. They're supposed to help detox your blood.
Mm-hmm. So that's all we brought for the party tonight, guys. 1 hour, almost 15 minutes.
Yay!
Do you have anything else to say?
Not at the moment.
Shall I challenge you on a story?
I don't know.
It'd be an easy one. Do you think she'll do it? An easy story out of Florida. Probably take about 5 minutes to tell. From memory. And it's on the channel back when we would do full production videos. Complete with B-roll and sound and everything.
Okay, here's the problem.
Here's the story. Do Sarah Boone.
Oh, Sarah Boone. I was going to say, I've got a few stories out of Florida. And I forgot the names of a few of the people. But Sarah Boone was a real piece of work. And I think to this day, she is probably still sitting in her cell with her sentence and everything, still going, but it wasn't on purpose. Not on purpose.
Not on purpose.
Because Sarah Boone is a self-centered, narcissistic, temperamental woman with a drinking problem who got way too big for her britches, basically. And she was a tough, rough and tumble gal. And first off, she was like that to
Yeah,
first
Sarah,
husband.
one more time, Journey. I know you've been here for a while.
Her husband, or estranged husband, I don't know if they were actually divorced yet when this occurred either. He is the father of her child.
George.
No, not George. Sarah's husband.
Oh, the husband.
Because guess what? Sarah was married, and she had a 10-year-old son.
Uh-huh.
And Sarah's husband was always bailing Sarah out of whatever difficulty Sarah would get into, and he was just always there for her. He would pick her up in the middle of the night and everything, and Sarah started dating George 2 years before she and her husband separated, and her husband knew this. And when she and George would get into a fight, he would go pick her up from wherever. And he is the one that actually rented the place that Sarah and George were living in at the time that George was killed. And Sarah...
I think we're supposed to use unalived.
Oh, okay. Disalived. At the time that George was disalived, he and Sarah were living together in this place that had been paid for by Sarah's husband. It might have been part of the divorce settlement or something. I'm unsure exactly on the details about that, but her husband is the definition of a codependent enabler. He was always trying to help Sarah, so Sarah was never actually taking responsibility for her actions. And well, I know that's probably wasn't his intention at all to give her free reign to wreak terror on everyone, but that's what she was doing. And she and George were both drinkers, and they gave as good as they got against each other. There were many domestics called in between them. Whenever she filed against him, she would bail him out. Whenever he filed against her, he would bail her out. The cops were very familiar with them and with the drinking and with the violence, and they actually were not supposed to be spending time with each other because of previous charges against each other, and they weren't supposed to be drinking at all and stuff like that. But they said, "Oh, we're working on it. We're working on our relationship." And we weren't drinking very much at the time, is what Sarah's story is. At first they only had a drink, and then it was a drink of, then it was a bottle, and then it was a couple bottles. They were drinking. They were drinking. Anyhow, so that night, Sarah's son was over at his dad's house. Sarah was at home alone with George, and by the way, George was also divorced, and George is a father of children, which makes it even more of a tragedy because, he left behind children who, are going to miss their daddy forever. But anyway, and George's whole family. George actually was smaller than Sarah, and was, and while it seems that, Sarah managed to wind him up enough to be able to file charges against him, George's ex-wife says that there was never any violence in her relationship with him, and that he was not the type to start fights with anybody. He was kind of mild-mannered, and he was kind of, meek. And like I said, he's a small guy. Sarah, rough and tumble and tougher than him and bigger than him. And so, Sarah's story is that night they were having a wonderful evening. You know, like Barry had a wonderful evening with Suzanne, too. That's another story, guys. But anyway, she was having a wonderful evening with him. They did some painting, and they worked on a jigsaw puzzle, and then they decided to play hide and seek.
An adult
Two
version.
people, an adult version of hide and seek. I don't even know how this is supposed to work because it's two people, and supposedly they thought it would be funny for him to hide in the suitcase.
I wonder what's...
And at that time, the suitcase was in their upstairs bedroom. And when he got into the suitcase, according to her story, but then the suitcase ended up down at the bottom of the stairs in a room down the stairs, and then Sarah went up to bed, and when she woke up, she realized that George had never come to bed.
Yeah, but she had recorded him inside of the suitcase
I'm
prior.
getting to that because at this point, Sarah didn't know that she had recorded this because Sarah was so drunk she was in a blackout by the time she passed out. And then she said she just woke up and George wasn't there.
Come here,
And
get out of here.
and meanwhile, Sarah's husband says that Sarah just woke up probably around noon or so because he had been calling her since like 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning because Sarah was supposed to pick up their son and did not. And so he just kept calling her to find out, are you going to get our child or not? You know, what's going on? And so eventually she answers the phone and she tells him, oh my God, George is dead. It's an accident. And he's like, call 911. And she's like, come over here. I need you. I need your help. You know, George is dead. Ah. And so then he goes over to the house, but he's already advised her a couple times to call 911. Meanwhile, she didn't. It turns out that she actually didn't call 911 until after her husband was already there and also saw George deceased in the suitcase and was like, oh God, where are the cops? You did call them, right? And she's like, yeah, I called them. They should be here. And he may have also called them. I don't know. He was out front when the police arrived. And Sarah then did call 911. She went out onto the back patio of the apartment and called 911 while she was smoking a cigarette and pretended that she was doing CPR and stuff like that on George. But, you know, she wasn't doing CPR on George or anything. And then eventually she's taken downtown where she's being questioned. And, you know, and she's like, I don't understand why I'm here. And they're going, because George is dead. And stuff like that. And she's like, why are you bothering me about this? And they're like, because George is dead. And then you go, oh, interesting thing in your phone here, Sarah. And then they show her the videos, 2 videos in her phone that she claims she didn't remember taking. And they are taken a space of time apart. And in these videos, you can plainly hear George begging to be let out of the suitcase. George telling Sarah that he couldn't breathe. Sarah mocking George, saying, that's how I feel when you cheat on me and things like that. And it sucks to be you and that kind of stuff. And just mocking him completely. And in the 2 videos, the suitcase is in 2 different positions in the same room. So it's likely that she kicked him around and moved him around. And then at court, we got to hear that the next door neighbors, who had a adjoining wall next to the stairs that went down from the bedroom to the living room area where the suitcase ended up, they remembered hearing something thumping and tumbling down the stairs that night, which was likely George. She likely kicked him down the stairs in the suitcase. George, his autopsy showed that he had a whole lot of bruising and lacerations, and you know, he'd obviously been beat up and battered around and knocked around in that suitcase. Sarah tried to blame it on rough sex, but anyway, she was found guilty.
And there she sits, and she would not.
But it wasn't on purpose.
Well,
because you know, because you killed George, not on purpose.
And she fired like 7 lawyers.
So many attorneys. She just kept firing them because they didn't know what they were doing. They weren't going for the defense that she wanted. She wanted to go with a battered woman's defense, but they're like, for a battered woman's defense, you had to have evidence that you were a battered woman, not that you were a batterer, not a battering woman. And so anyway, Sarah's where she belongs, locked up, probably still going, not on purpose.
I think she'll serve like, how long?
I hope she serves forever. Always going, not on purpose.
Not on purpose. So it's not going to be bumped down to any involuntary stuff at this point.
She's probably going to file every appeal she can get her hands on and everything. But I don't see how any sane jury.
Hey.
Holy cow.
How's that Tabasco sauce?
Wow. Starting
Too
to
much?
heat up really a lot.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's all we have for tonight.
So I guess that's all we have for tonight because I'm going to start choking a lot any second now because now my nose is starting to run too. So I guess I reached my expiration date for the night.
Yeah, we've been here for almost an hour and a half now.
Okay.
Thank you for showing up, everybody, and checking us out. Hit that subscribe button. You can change your mind later if you don't like us.
Hit the like, share us out, tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell anybody about us.
Definitely
check
tell
us
your
out.
enemies.
And like, subscribe, share. We hope to get to 10,000 subs by Christmas.
Someone has upped the game.
Yeah, they upped the game. They said, "Why are you aiming for January 1st? Why don't you aim for Christmas?" So
that's like over 800 subscribers we will need
yeah,
to get there.
in like 2
8
months.
weeks.
Wow.
Anyways,
Don't know if we can do it, but let's give it a shot. Let's try.
smash that likey like and have an epic day, evening, wherever you may be on the
Yeah,
planet.
and as Truman was saying, good morning, good afternoon, and good night.
Boom. Are you sure you want to stop streaming? Yes. Good night.
Good night.